You're listening to the Neighborhood Bulldog, where the porch light's always on and the maroon runs deep. I'm Scott Neighbors, and this is your home for real Mississippi State sports talk. Around here, we don't chase headlines. We break down the wins, the losses, the culture, and what it really means to be a Bulldog. If it matters in Starkville, it matters here. So pull up a chair, grab a drink, and welcome to the neighborhood. Hail State.
Welcome in to the latest episode of the Neighborhood Bulldog. I am your Neighborhood Bulldog, Scott Neighbors, and it has been a while, guys. It has been a little while. Last time we spoke was Mississippi State being eliminated in the Athens, Georgia Regional. And since that day, we've had a great College World Series, obviously with Mississippi State not in it. I didn't feel there was much to talk about. We've had the MLB draft, had a very successful draft in terms of players leaving that got drafted. And also, I thought Mississippi State survived the draft when it comes to recruits very well. But we can dive into that as we get ready for next baseball season. Wanted to keep that sport compartmentalized with baseball season there. And it's really getting to be the best time of year. Ultimately, over the summer, unless you're really deep into recruiting, there's just not a whole lot to talk about. And as much traveling as I've been doing, as much working as I've been doing, there just wasn't a whole lot of time for me to dive deep into recruiting. That's not something I spend a whole lot of my time on anyway. Pretty much because the 1 year that I did keep up with every single possible signee or recruit that we had, I think maybe one or two of the guys in that class actually contributed to Mississippi State football. And, after that, it just kind of killed the vibe for me. So I prefer to focus on who's on the field, who's contributing. And yes, recruiting rankings matter, but with NIL and the portal, I mean, things can change very, very quickly. So, not something that I typically dive into or spend a lot of time on. I'm more of a present in the moment kind of person. So, just to let you know, moving forward, yes, I will cover any big portal opportunities we may be in, any races we may be in, but that will probably be the extent of my recruiting coverage there. Um, Now, wanted to get back in the swing of things here as SEC Media Days just finished up. Kind of was waiting on that. Vacations are over for the summer. I will be gone over the next 10 days or so after this week on a trip, but I will find time to get back to you guys and just update what's going on presently. Fall camp should be starting soon. School is back in the swing of things for my kids. So things will be ramping up pretty quick here. And it is the best time of year. You guys know I love baseball. Baseball was my life. Former baseball player, former baseball coach. Baseball was my life year round since I could walk. But as much of a baseball coach slash fan as I am a football fan diehard. Nothing gets me excited like the start of college football season. I can watch every game on TV. I'm one of those that I'll be watching Hawaii at 11:30 at night. Um, so as we jump into this, let's jump in the swing of things and talk about some SEC Media Day content that was put out. Really good week overall for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. I thought the coverage was fantastic. I thought hearing some of the analysis of the football program and the football team coming up this season, I don't know that it changed my mind on my expectations a whole lot. But I will say, I do think that after hearing some of the analyst talk, after hearing the player interviews and hearing kind of the overall thinking of Mississippi State this year, I would say it probably bumped another win or two on to my prediction for this season. Now, we'll talk about it and we'll have a schedule breakdown in another episode, but I will go ahead and tell you my expectations. I've always been a realist, and I have been sucked into the optimism of SEC Media Days before. Um, is it possible for Mississippi State to make a run and do some special things this year? It absolutely is. Do I think it's going to happen? There has been no evidence to show me that that will happen. And that's just the fact of the matter. I hate it. I hate that it's like that, but we're going to jump into some things that will back up why I feel the way that I feel. So, overall, the outcome of SEC Media Days, the thing that people want to focus on is you're looking at the preseason poll and you're looking at the predicted order of finish and you're looking at who got preseason All SEC. Now, I will tell you from a Mississippi State perspective, the preseason All SEC teams are going to look completely different. I feel like Mississippi State got slighted a little bit on the preseason All SEC teams, and we'll talk about why in just a minute. But I do fully believe and expect that we will see many more Mississippi State players either in the running or on the All SEC team at the conclusion of this season, based on what I'm hearing. So let's jump into this. The preseason media poll, where they pick who they think is going to win the championship. Obviously, you have a lot of your blue bloods, okay? Georgia, 88 votes. Texas, 57. I'm actually kind of surprised there is that gap between Georgia and Texas and the number of votes. And then you really drop down. They have Ole Miss with 6 votes, Texas A&M with 5, Alabama with 3, Oklahoma with 2, LSU with 2, and Kentucky with 1. One person voted for Kentucky to win the SEC championship with Will Stein as their head coach and a first-year head coach. There may not be more of a homer vote in the country than the person that voted for Kentucky to win the SEC championship. That is 100% not going to happen. That is an impossibility. It is not going to happen. Will they be good? They'll be better, but they're not going to win the SEC. Likewise, neither is Mississippi State. It's not going to happen. I wish it would, but again, based on the evidence I've seen, I'm not optimistic on that. I personally do believe Georgia will win the SEC. I thought it would be closer between them and Texas. I am very surprised that Ole Miss got 6 votes with Pete Golding as first-year head coach. I think that is largely on the back of Trinidad Chambliss returning and Keywan Lacey returning. Are they good enough to propel Ole Miss in Pete Golding's first year as head coach? I don't think they are. They're good, and Ole Miss is going to be good. They're going to be a playoff contender. Make no mistake about that. But I do not think with Pete Golding as a primarily defensive coach, I mean, he's known for his defense. I just think Lane Kiffin is such an offensive savant that not having him on the sidelines is going to be a big difference for Ole Miss this year. Now, are they going to go 4-8? No. 5-7? I would be shocked, but I do not see a scenario where they're going to win the SEC. They could make the playoff as a late team in the playoff, but that's about as high as my expectations go for them in Pete Golding's first year. Likewise, obviously, if you're going to pick them as the third team in line to win the SEC championship, it stands to reason that they would be picked third in the order of finishing. in the SEC standings. I am very, very, very surprised by that. Very surprised that they were picked over teams like Texas A&M, LSU. Being over Alabama doesn't really surprise me. We'll talk about them in a moment. Oklahoma, John Mateer's back for Oklahoma. What's he going to look like? Florida, I think Florida is going to be a sleeper team this year under John Sumrall. That is just a guy. I knew he was a dog, but after watching his interviews and the attitude of the players around media days, watch out for Florida and John Sumrall because they're going to be much, much better than people expect them to be. But Ole Miss at third in the SEC behind Georgia and Texas, that is extremely surprising to me. You've got A&M at fourth, and they've got Marcel Reed. I mean, I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So Trinidad Chambliss, Kejuan Lacey, I think this just adds to the pressure on their backs, and we'll see what happens. But again, it's Pete Golding's first year as the head guy in the SEC. There is a learning curve when you're the head man. And again, losing Lane Kiffin's offensive genius and in the moment kind of BS that he would pull, I think that's going to hurt Ole Miss a lot more than people think it will. Now, overall, getting to our Mississippi State Bulldogs, I was a little surprised here. Mississippi State picked 15th to finish in the SEC, 15th out of 16 teams. The only team that was picked behind Mississippi State is Arkansas, with first-year head coach Ryan Silverfield coming in from Memphis. Arkansas is not Memphis, and it is the SEC. Will he be a good coach? I do not know. But I believe he is in the middle of a gigantic culture shock and a culture change that is going to take some time at Arkansas. And I fully believe that that's the right spot for them. I just do not think that they're going to be much to look at this year. But Mississippi State being put down at 15th, that is when you know as a media member, you're sitting here, you saw Kamario Taylor for the last few games last season. 100% for a fact, Mississippi State won the Arkansas game because of Kamario Taylor. The fact that he got put in the game, Mississippi State immediately gets a spark, and then you take him out and put Blake Shapen back in, I thought was one of the worst coaching decisions I've ever seen. But to give him some credit, he did play extremely well in the fourth quarter, but without Kamario Taylor providing that spark on offense, there is no chance you're winning that ball game and coming back from down where you were in that situation. So you got to see Kamario Taylor there and the spark he provides. And make no mistake, the boy can move. He can play. The touchdown run he had against Arkansas that kind of solidified our comeback, I feel like. I don't think our offensive line touched a single defender for Arkansas on that play. And he turns it into like a 25-yard touchdown run. In the Egg Bowl, I thought the offense played well in the Egg Bowl. I thought Kamario did everything he could do. Obviously, there were some missed short passes that he has to get better in. He knew he had to get better in, and I believe that he has. I think we saw some of that in the bowl game a little bit. But again, it was the same thing. The defense in the Egg Bowl just completely killed us. But again, the long touchdown run Kamario had, you had a double team on the outside edge that just our offensive line completely whiffed on. And he's got three guys standing right there in front of him. As soon as he touches the ball, he takes one step, jukes two of them, misses a blitzing linebacker behind those two guys, and then takes it to the house, juking another guy, a safety coming down. And you watch him make these plays, and you're going, how in the world can he make these plays? And the optimism that I have stems from you assume Jeff Lebby has shored up the offensive line and made it a little better. The recruiting rankings don't say that, but as glaring of an issue as it was, you have to assume that Jeff Lebby saw that and that he got it fixed. You have to assume that. He was extremely confident during SEC Media Days that he has solved that issue, going so far as to say he is extremely confident in the 6 guys that he has. He mentioned waiting for fall camp to pop off to see, 7, 8, 9, and 10 on that offensive line rotation. But he said a line that caught my attention. He said this is the best offensive line that he's had in the 2 years that he's been here. I hope that's the case. Jeff Lebby better hope that's the case, because if that is the case going into year 3 with a guy like Kamario Taylor, and let's not look over guys like Fluff Bothwell, Anthony Evans, Zion Regents. I mean, you got some speedsters on the outside. You went out and replaced Brennan Thompson with not 1, not 2, 3 speedsters that can just blow the top off a defense in a heartbeat. And we heard some of that from Kamario Taylor with him saying, I think Brennan Thompson ran a 10-1 or a 10-2, and we've got somebody faster than that runs a 10 flat. That's insane. That is moving. So Jeff Lebby obviously can recruit, and he's gotten the job done at these skill positions. If this season is going to be competitive, if we're going to win, and honestly, if Jeff Lebby is going to keep his job at the end of the season, that offensive line has to be better than Jeff Lebby expects it to be. It's got to be impeccable. And when you think that way and you hear Jeff Lebby talk and you see the plays that Kamario Taylor made last season in the last few games that he started in, it makes you wonder if he can do that when the offensive line completely whiffs on every defender coming at you. And he can turn that into a 30-yard touchdown run or a dump-off pass for 40 yards. What can he do when the offensive line actually gives him a few seconds? Because those touchdown runs he had 0 seconds from the time he caught the ball to make a decision, and it worked out beautifully for him. Now, I think the bowl game against Wake Forest, I think it was rough. I don't think Kamario was extremely healthy in that game, and God bless Kamario Taylor and the fact that he did not shatter his knee on the injury that he had. I think when we saw that, we all knew, oh my goodness, next season's already over. And losing Blake Shapen in year 1, starting true freshman Van Buren, that was rough. Last year, Blake Shapen playing kind of threw some interceptions and didn't really protect the ball the way that it should have been protected, and made some bad decisions overall. Kamario coming in consistently providing a spark to the team, and it felt like banging your head against a wall as to why we aren't just turning the ball over to Kamario the whole time. And we finally did that late in the season, and I think that was one of the best moves Jeff Lebby could have made. Number one, to give us hope for this season. Hope is infectious. And before he did that, I don't think we had much hope or confidence in Jeff Lebby as the head coach. Seeing Kamario, I think everybody across the country was excited for that. And hearing the people talk around SEC Media Days the last week, people know what Mississippi State has. The secret's out. Kamario is massive. He is a massive guy. And to hear him talk, he is a sophomore. He talks with such maturity that it's hard not to be excited. Very excited. He's already got a lot of the intangibles. He's already got the dealing with the media down. I mean, his conversations were as genuine as I've heard a player be. And that's something that I think carries a lot of weight. And I think he's even better as the leader in the clubhouse, in the locker room with his teammates. So another thing that I heard a lot of was Mississippi State's players just looked the part. They looked the part physically. And State has not had that in several years. I think the best thing Zach Selman has done is give Jeff Lebby time. With that said, if Mississippi State finishes 15th out of 16th in the SEC this season, time's up. You've got to perform. This is a results-driven business. I like Jeff Lebby. He's a nice guy. I think his offense works. I think you can see people running wide open on every play. I think that he has just had such a horrible offensive line his last two seasons, on top of a quarterback that may not read the defense as fast as others can. I think it was just a bad combination the last two seasons. This season, you've got the guy at quarterback. You've got the offensive line, supposedly. You've got who I think is one of the best running backs in the SEC. And I think people are going to find that out this year with Fluff and him maybe not splitting as much time as he did last year with Booth. That may have hurt Fluff Bothwell heading into this season, the fact that he split so many reps. But you got Anthony Evans, who led the SEC in catches last year. Can he lead the SEC in yards? I think so. We got some speed. We got some size. There is a lot of reason to be optimistic. But I was optimistic the last two seasons under Jeff Lebby. I was excited for the offense, and it just did not perform up to expectations. I think this could be the year State turns it around. And before we went into media days, I'll be honest, looking at the schedule and the evidence presented over the last 2 years, I saw 3, maybe 4 wins on the schedule. Just being completely real. After SEC media days, I can easily see 6, 7, 8 wins. Easily. And if Jeff Lebby wins 8 games with this schedule, look for him to be in Coach of the Year conversations. No doubt about it at all. Now, that is the order of finish. Now let's get into the preseason All-SEC team. And this is where I think a lot of changes are going to end up happening. Quarterback, you got first team Chambliss at Ole Miss. I don't think anybody is surprised by that whatsoever. You got Arch Manning second team and Gunnar Stockton on the third team. Little surprised. I like Marcel Reed, but he could end up on this list by the end of the year. Kamario Taylor could end up on this list by the end of the year. I just think that people have not seen enough of him yet to put him down. I mean, we don't have good stat lines on him. So I think at the end of the year, we could easily see Kamario Taylor as the top returning quarterback in the SEC going into next season. Running back, I think the media nailed the first team running back situation. Keywan Lacey and Ahmad Hardy, the leading rusher returning to Missouri from last year. Jaden Ball at Florida, another big guy going to run right through your face on the second team. Nate Frazier from Georgia. And then on the third team, you've got Deshaun Bishop of Tennessee and Hollywood Smothers of Texas. I don't know much about him, but what a name. What a name for a running back. Hollywood Smothers. Now, wide receiver, this is where I feel like State got slighted. On the first team, you've got Cam Coleman of Texas and Ryan Coleman Williams, who apparently took his wife's last name after getting married, of Alabama. Here's why I think Mississippi State got slighted on that selection. Anthony Evans should be in that spot over Ryan Williams. 100%. Anthony Evans had more catches and more yards. Same number of touchdowns. But when you have the most number of catches in the SEC and you have more yards, why is he not? Not only is Anthony Evans not first team, Anthony Evans is not on the first, second, or third team preseason SEC for wide receivers. And that, to me, is just egregious. I feel like the media, and I think we've seen this time and time again, they look at the name that is on the jersey instead of the stats that players produce. And I'm a stat person. Anthony Evans had better stats than Ryan Williams. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. It is a fact. On paper, Anthony Evans was better than Ryan Williams. Did Ryan Williams have some bigger plays? Maybe. Stats don't show it. And this is a stat driven metric here. So I think Anthony Evans should be in that spot. Another name familiar to Mississippi State fans, Mario Craver at Texas A&M, getting that second team wide receiver spot. Then you got Ryan Wingo of Texas on the third team, along with Nick Harbor of South Carolina. Nick Harbor of South Carolina may be one of the most underrated wide receivers in the conference this year. So watch out for him as well. Tight end, again, Mississippi State doesn't use much of the tight end. You got LSU, Georgia, and Kentucky, 1, 2, and 3 there. Guards and tackles, we're not going to mention that. You know, without a doubt that Mississippi State has nobody on that. Center, again, offensive line, State's not touching that. Mario Craver getting another nod as the first team All-SEC all-purpose player. So that is interesting as well. Now, again, some of the names I mentioned, Anthony Evans, Kamario Taylor, Fluff Bothwell, Zion Ragens. Mississippi State has a lot of opportunity to cover this list by the end of the season, and I think we are going to do just that. On defense, this is another spot that Mississippi State got slighted. I mean, there's just no question about it. I don't know what the media is looking at or paying attention to. Defensive line, I think Mississippi State fans will agree. Not Will Eccles, he's at Ole Miss. Will Whitson for Mississippi State got hurt early last year. But if you watch that early part of the Arizona State game, he was a monster on that defensive line. If he does not get hurt, he's going to be on this first team All-SEC defensive line. And I look for him to have a big year this year as well. But you got Will Eccles of Ole Miss, Prince Will, Uman who left Ole Miss and went to LSU. That's the first team. Then you've got Cam Franklin at Ole Miss. That's the only relevant names on there. Linebacker, you got Whit Weeks at LSU, Xavier Atkins at Auburn, Raheem Biles at Texas as the first team. You got Suntarine Perkins for Ole Miss making the second team. He is a extremely good player. And then where Mississippi State got slighted is defensive back. Mississippi State has one of the best defensive backs in the country, not just the SEC, in the country. He's going to be drafted in the first round. He's going to make a ton of money, and that is Kelly Jones at Mississippi State. Find me another 6'4" DB that can keep up with anybody in the country. He allowed so little last year that it put him on the map. Teams did not throw to his half of the field because of how good he is. You've got KJ Bolden at Georgia, Zabian Brown at Alabama, Bray Hubbard at Alabama, and Ellis Robinson of Georgia on the first team. Kelly Jones making the second team All-SEC defensive back. There's not a single name on that first team that you can tell me right now with a straight face is better than Kelly Jones of Mississippi State in the DB position. It doesn't exist. You know the name because of who they play for. But when you look at stats and you look at metrics, which again, this is supposed to be a metric-based poll, if you want to call it that, here. Kelly Jones not being on the first team is a slap in the face. And it is embarrassing to a media that supposedly pays attention to everything around. And I'm not just saying that because I'm Mississippi State. I'm saying that because he's one of the best DBs in the entire country. and you're telling me he's only good enough for the second team All SEC? Give me a break. Get out of here with that. That is BS, 100%. Mississippi State had another nod on special teams. We've got Ethan Pulliam making the third team All SEC punter spot. And a little surprised that there's not another name on there. A guy by the name of Kyle Ferry. Now, Kyle Ferry is going to break the all-time scoring record for Mississippi State. And I cannot wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. He set a program record of 44 straight point afters in 2025, and he is going to break the all-time points record for Mississippi State. I love to see it. I can't wait to see it. And I'm a little surprised that a guy that's going to break the all-time scoring record is not on the All-SEC place kicking team. Little surprising. But overall, Mississippi State building a little confidence as they leave Tampa, Florida, and as they leave SEC Media Days. I mentioned earlier I would kind of give a little background to why I think Mississippi State was picked 15th out of 16th in the SEC. We have a head coach going into his third season. And again, I'm a stats person. I think we can all look at Camario, Fluff, Anthony Evans, all the players I've named, all the players I've talked about, all the confidence that's been built around, and I think we can all agree we should, emphasis on the word should, be a lot better than we have been the last two seasons. However, when you look at us on paper, we are 7-18 and 1-15 under Jeff Lebby. That is not a good spot to be in at all. He would have to win every single game for us to just have a respectable overall record again under his tutelage as head coach. That's not a knock on Jeff Lebby. He walked into a situation that I think was much, much worse than anybody anticipated. The way the program was headed in a upward trajectory when we were shocked and just blindsided by the news that one morning about our beloved Mike Leach. I think everybody expected Mississippi State to compete for the playoffs and to be a 10 or 11 win team that next season. Mike Leach passes away, unfortunately. Zach Arnett gets the reins. And here's something I'll say about Zach Arnett, too. Our defense is going to be a lot better because we have Zach Arnett back as defensive coordinator. That is the right move. There's not a better pure defensive coordinator in the country than Zach Arnett. When he got handed the reins as head coach, the first few weeks, I thought he was great. Thought he did fine. He was that hard ass, rah, tough guy, no BS kind of coach. And that's kind of the attitude you need to succeed at Mississippi State. If you remember correctly, and I've said this to several people, and people don't seem to remember this. After one of the games, Zach Arnett was being interviewed on the field by, I think it was SEC Network, potentially ESPN. And he dropped an F-bomb just in passing, in talking. I thought it was hilarious. I saw no problem with it whatsoever. He's a fired-up football guy through and through. But Zach Arnett, if you're listening to this, man, I don't know who got to you after that happened or what they did to you to suck out your personality. But the very next time we saw Zach Arnett in front of a camera, he was a completely different human being. His attitude was different. His personality was completely different. You could tell that somebody got to him and told him to rein it in and to not be that rah-rah kind of guy. And whoever did that should never step foot on Mississippi State's campus ever again, because you had a guy that could have led the program as that tough guy. And I thought he would have been fine. His attitude was the hard-nosed, blue-collar mentality that you must have at Mississippi State if you're going to succeed. And we've seen that time and time again. Dan Mullen didn't win games by being nice. He didn't win by being a player's coach. Dan Mullen was an a-hole through and through. Talk to coaches that went with players to practice. They'll tell you he was an a-hole certified. All right? The guy won. Joe Moorhead, player's coach, not good. What's Jeff Lebby? Seems to be a player's coach. Hadn't been good so far. He could have been successful. But you go watch. I encourage you to go back and watch that on-the-field interview. He was completely normal, the same old Zach Arnett we knew as defensive coordinator. And go watch the next several interviews after that and his demeanor on the sidelines. He was completely different. He was a shell of himself. And I think that that was the start of the downfall of our football program, because he could not be himself. And yes, you have to make an adjustment as a head coach, but ultimately you have to be who you are as well. And he evidently got told he couldn't be. So would he have done well? I don't know. Probably not. Probably wouldn't have been as good as Mullen or Leach. Would he have done better than he did? 100%. I fully believe that. The worst thing he did was went and hired Kevin Barbay, who completely changed the offense from what we were doing. Same thing as Joe Moorhead. If Joe Moorhead isn't stubborn and just runs the offense Dan Mullen had, we're a top team, potentially winning the SEC that year. We had the number one defense in the country. Stubbornness is what caused that downfall. And then Zach Arnett completely changing the offense. When you have a roster set for air raid, you can't just run any offense. You are running the air raid. And when you go away from the air raid, it is a tough path to hoe to get away from it and get players back on the roster through several recruiting cycles where you can run a normal offense again. And that is what Jeff Lebby has done so far. Now, 7-18, 1-15 under Jeff Lebby. Let me tell you a date and see if anybody can guess this date. November 5th, 2022. November 5th, 2022. Ask yourself why that date is important. November 5th, 2022 is the last time the Mississippi State Bulldogs won an SEC game in Davis-Wade Stadium. We're sitting here heading into the 2026 season. 2026. And we have not won an SEC home game since November 5th of 2022. That was a 39-33 overtime win versus Auburn. My point in saying this is not to knock our program. We historically have a very tough program when it comes to winning and success. It can be done. But when we see things like, oh, the media picking Mississippi State 15th, yeah, those stats right there are the reason why. And it takes a lot to change perception. We also had that run of 10 to 12 straight years that Mississippi State finished higher than what the media predicted them in the preseason to finish. Let's get back to those days. That's what I can't wait to see. And again, I say, after hearing the maturity of our players over the last week and hearing Jeff Lebby, there's a big difference in Jeff Lebby at 2026 SEC Media Days and Jeff Lebby of the last 2 years of SEC Media Days. This Jeff Lebby sounded confident that it could get done, and he sounded like he expects to win and be competitive. And let's not forget, we're having a completely different conversation right now around Mississippi State and Jeff Lebby. If we hold on and win the game against Tennessee, if we win at Florida, which should have been a win 100%, and if we hold on and beat Texas, we're having a completely different conversation right now than we are currently having. So the opportunity is there, and I cannot wait to be sitting in the football stadium watching Kamario Taylor do his thing, because get ready. We have not seen anyone like this since Dak. Two of my favorite players in Mississippi State history is obviously Dak Prescott and Nick Fitzgerald. When Nick Fitzgerald would run the read option and it's off to the races, there may not be anything more beautiful in football. I cannot wait to see what Kamario Taylor has in store for us this year. We will see what happens. There is a lot of reason to be optimistic, but again, I consider myself more of a realist, and I hope that we make a bowl game. That's where I'm at. Jeff Lebby must make a bowl game with the talent that he has on this roster. You have to be at a minimum 6-6. You have to be. There are no excuses if you cannot go 6-6. We will be back with you, hopefully one day next week, with a schedule breakdown. I will be traveling in the western part of the country, so a lot of that will depend. If I do not get one with you next week, it will be the start of the following week. I will have a full episode with a schedule breakdown, and may even have one of my buddies join on that one and talk some ball with me as well. Have a great night as we sit here and record. Keep an eye out for upcoming news for Mississippi State, and join the neighborhood. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, leave comments. I love to interact with you, okay, on the TikToks and on YouTube. Let's talk. Let's talk some ball. I love talking ball. I could talk it all day long. You guys have a great night. I am your neighborhood Bulldog, Scott Neighbors. I will be back with you. Hell State.